Hi, this is SG Prince again. Just following up from my last video, which I said that I was going to make a kind of tutorial on how to make a character in Mythic. So I'll jump into it. I'll try to be much more focused in this video than the last one. I kind of rambled a lot. But just so people are kind of aware of where Mythic is at in its development, it's pretty far along. I already have some title art, and personally I think it's looking pretty good so far. Got an edgy quote, table of contents. I'll kind of go through this a little slow so you can pause or kind of just read it at your own leisure, so you can kind of get an idea of everything that's in the game. And today I'm not going to do introduction at all, and I probably won't edit this video at all either, just so people are aware. Editing and scripting take a lot of time, and I don't have a lot of time on my hands these days, so I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna go through character creation, all of this for today, and hopefully some people find it interesting. What is that? It's gonna be 28 pages. Okay, I'll try to be quick about it. I'll mostly probably just be scrolling and allowing people to take the opportunity to pause the video so they can read stuff in more detail, because I don't want this to be like a super huge bloated video. But as you can see, there's a lot of stuff in the game. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of it is very developed at this point. It's been play tested a few times now. It works pretty well. Still has a few kinks to work out, but I think it's in a good place. So yeah, I'm going to kind of skip through the introduction. If you want to pause it and read it, go ahead. It's pretty generic TTRPG stuff, like don't be a prick player, don't be a prick DM. Of course, I should mention, in this game, it's not called the DM, because I think it's DM that's copyrighted by Wizards. And then what are they called? Paizo. Paizo uses GM. I think that's how it works for Pathfinder. But in this game, it's called Narrative Director. Because why not? Copyright safe, Need dice to play. As for the formatting, I think the borders are looking pretty good too. Maybe this is a while ago at this point, but I think it looks good. I like it, and it gives you a little, I don't know what you call this, like a key to tell you what chapter you're in. Even though the book doesn't even, it's not even, I don't call them chapters. I just, character creation. You're in character creation right now. But yeah, so character creation, if you've played 5e or Pathfinder, you probably have a good idea of how this kind of works. You have the basic stats of strength, dexterity. Instead of constitution, it's resolve. Intelligence is still intelligence. Instead of wisdom, it's insight. And instead of charisma, it's influence. I might change those names in the future between insight and influence, because all the mental stats begin with I now, and that gets a little confusing. So I could change in the future, I don't know. But yeah, they function exactly the same as 5e. Intelligence is for being smart. Insight is for being insightful, reading people, sussing out people's true emotions, but also being aware of your surroundings. Influence is being charismatic. Resolve is your toughness. Dexterity and strength, you probably already know what those are. So setting your stats, it works just like how it would in 5e or Pathfinder. You can use the standard array or point by. Everything starts at 10 across the board for all your stats, and you can increase or decrease them based on that. That's how you do point buy. I think it described point buy. Yeah, when making a character, all your stats start at 10. You have 12 stat points to allot to each stat. If raising a stat above 15, then the points required to raise that stat cost 2 points instead of 1. You can also reduce your stats numbers to get points back. Every number below 10 gives you 1 point back, but every point under 5 gives you 2 points back. So no stat can exceed 20 or 0. I don't remember. I think that's basically how it works for 5e. I don't remember if they have that, like if it goes above 15 rule. I think they do, but yeah, that's how it keeps players from building. Yeah, I'm not going to explain it. People already know. If you know, you know. But yeah, that's how it works. You can also use the standard array. Works exactly the same in this game. I don't recommend rolling. Rolling creates radical characters. They're either going to be really good or really bad. They're not generally, rolling isn't generally great. Skills. A lot of skills in Mythic work exactly the same in 5e or Pathfinder. They have some name changes. Some of them have been folded into each other. I'll just go through them really quickly to kind of show you some of the changes I did. So acrobatics, still acrobatics. If you played 5e, you know what that is. It's jumping, flipping, maintaining your balance. Animal husbandry is the same as animal kinship, whatever it's called in 5e. It measures how good you are with animals. And I almost got rid of the skill because it really doesn't come up that often in 5e or Pathfinder. Like interacting with animals, you can arguably fold that into nature, but in this game there is a specific skill for it because you can get animal companions in this game, and your animal husbandry skill is important for maintaining that animal companion, and also influences how strong they are in combat, things like that. So it's still skill. Athletics is like your ability to run and climb things, like being very physical. Awareness it's perception from 5e, or Dungeons and Dragons, I should say. It's perception, but just with a name change. A lot of the names in Mythic have been changed more because I'm trying to be copyright safe rather than because I think the word I changed it to is somehow better or something. I don't think it's better. It's just a change. But awareness is essentially perception. So instead of passive perception, it's passive awareness. And it's still influenced by wisdom, which is insight in this game. Convince, unlike in D&D or Pathfinder, there is no persuasion and deception skill. They're not split up at all. They're just one skill. I did that because I'm trying to reduce skill bloat, ability bloat, I guess you could call it. Because in D&D and Pathfinder there are a lot of skills, and a lot of them don't get used very often. And so it's like, it just makes more sense to kind of reduce the number of skills a bit. And I personally, I don't like to use the realism argument, like realistically this would work this way, and because I feel like you can use that to kind of argue anything you want, especially in a game that isn't trying to be realistic. It's trying to seem realistic, but it's not a simulation. It's just trying to feel realistic. So it just doesn't make sense because persuasion, deception, either way you're trying to convince someone of something, right? And so whether or not that's the truth or a lie, you're trying to convince them of something. So I folded those two skills into a single skill called convince, and that's what it is. And it's still influenced by charisma, but in this game it's called influence. Discernment is it's insight. It's what insight would be or Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder. It's your ability to kind of discern whether or not someone's lying, essentially. Intimidation is it works like the other games. It's your ability to scare people. Investigation is just like the other games. It's getting up close and dirty with something, and using your hands and fingers to kind of turn stuff around and check stuff personally. I was reading the wrong thing, sorry. To check things in your hands and get like up close look at it. Thievery is just like Convince. It is a couple different skills kind of compacted down into one. It is, what is it? It's like lockpick, pickpocket, or whatever it's called in other games. Sleight of hand, that's what it is. It's lockpick, sleight of hand, kind of compacted into a single skill. Because it just doesn't really make sense to make sleight of hand and lockpick two different things. Like I just compacted it down into one single skill. That way, I'm doing this so like your skill points matter more as you level up. I think I talked about skill points last video, not in detail, but I talked about them a little bit. You have medical, which is the same as medicine in other games. It's just your ability to heal people. Piloting, that is a completely unique skill compared to the other games, sort of. In the other games you have like proficiency in land or sea vehicles, but I decided that I would make piloting its own skill, especially in Mythic, because you could have a campaign that is like very much like Firefly, the TV show, where you're spending at least half the show on a ship flying through space, and so you need someone on the ship who's good at piloting, and that's kind of their job. That's all they do. They pilot. But it also affects other things. It's driving or piloting or captaining any kind of vehicle this skill applies to. The only thing you need before this skill can apply to whatever vehicle you're piloting or driving is training in that vehicle. After that, you can add this piloting skill to whatever role related to that vehicle. Another kind of unique skill, not really, it's psionics. If you've played Dungeons & Dragons, or I think Pathfinder also has it, it's Arcana. In this game, it's a bit more of a specialized skill because there's no magic in Mythic, and psions in psionics are not as commonplace. I mean, I guess it matters what kind of setting you're playing, and you might be playing in a low fantasy setting with not a lot of magic, but psionics applies to things that are done by scions or have something to do with like mental stuff. If you really want to look at it in a certain way, like psionics are essentially the magic of Mythic. So someone rolling psionics can they pick up a psychic residue on a where someone died, that can lead them somewhere or do something, or the skill is also important for the mechanics of the Scion perk path, which is basically a subclass, I guess you could say. So while it can affect skill rolls, it's also not primarily, but pretty heavily used in combat as well, because it affects your psionic attack DC and psionic save DC, which function exactly like a spell attack and spell save DC in D&D. So if you know those games, you know how this works essentially, but it's called a different thing. It's called psionics. Recall is the same thing as a history check. It's just recalling information you learned at some point in your life. R&D is it's kind of like a tinkerer's tools check, but it's kind of its own skill now. Mythic being so sci-fi focused, this is probably like one of the most important skills to have in the game. R&D, it's your ability to use and repair technology, but not just technology, but also like chemistry and any higher math or advanced science, anything, I don't know, STEM related, I guess. But yeah, and then you have sneak, which functions exactly like how it does in D&D. Survival. Survival is, if you play D&D, survival is the survival skill and the nature skill compacted into one. It didn't make sense to have them be two different things, so I just compacted them into a single thing where it's all about knowing your terrain and surviving your difficult terrain and surviving in hardship and just clinging to life. One, the notable difference about survival though in this game, it's not wisdom it's not wisdom based. It is now resolve based. So if you have a character who is has a really high resolve, really good at surviving stuff, and they're going to have higher health as well, they're going to have good survival, which personally I think makes sense. They're going to be hardier. They're going to be more capable of surviving their surroundings. And then you have ballistic. You have weapon skills and saves. I decided to put these into the skill area because let's see. If you come over to the character sheet on the right side of the screen, you can see that you put skill points into weapon abilities and stuff as well. So if you're using like a pistol, which is a ballistic weapon, you would add whatever your skill training modifier is, would be to that attack made with that, to your accuracy roll made with that weapon, and then you add whatever your stat modifier is, which for a pistol would be your dexterity. Yeah, I decided to, because these are also influenced by your skill points. When you get skill points, you get 6 per odd number level up, I think it is. And so when you get that, you can come down to your ballistic weapon skill training level and put in, I don't know, 2 or something. And that will allow you to know how much you should add to your accuracy modifier. And keep in mind the STMs, skill training modifiers, work. They essentially fill the role of a proficiency modifier from D&D. And so instead of just, you're proficient with, how in D&D where you pick a class and that class is proficient in a certain type of weapon. And so if you use that weapon, you can add your proficiency modifier. Well, instead of that, you put in skill points to each weapon skill and save, and that represents your proficiency with that weapon type. So yeah, make sure not to dump those skills because they're really useful. So setting your skills, it works pretty much just like, actually, I don't think it does. At level 1, you're allotted 6. Oh, should have just read this. You're allotted 6 skill points that can be used to increase any skill of your choice. Each level of skill costs a certain amount of points to raise from one level to the next. Each level of skill increases your skill training modifier, STM, which is then added to the corresponding ability score modifier to determine your overall STM for that skill. For example, with a dexterity score of 15, giving you a modifier +2, and spending a skill point in acrobatics, which also grants a +2. That might be out of date. That should give you, let's say you put 2 skill points or 3 skill points into acrobatics, which would then bring it up to intermediate. Oh, whoops. intermediate, which would give you another +2. So between having your dexterity modifier being a +2 and having your STM in acrobatics being +2, then your total would be a +4. Combining those two things. So let's make a character then. Sorry, I should have done this before. Let's go back up at the stats and let's just use a standard array. I want to create, I don't know, a scion, I guess. So let's use a standard array. So 15, I'll put 15 in intelligence because they mostly use that. And then let's put my 14 into resolve for concentration checks. Scions are pretty good with laser weapons because they don't weigh anything. Scions are usually not strong. You can play a strong scion if you want. There's nothing wrong with that, but typically they are weaker. So dexterity focus. So let's do 13 in dexterity. That'll give us a nice +1 to some of our weapon attacks. Scions can mind control people, so maybe we're not interested in influence. So let's put our 12 in insight. And then let's just dump strength. Let's put our 10 in influence so we're not completely terrible at convincing people, and then an 8 in strength. Please stop. There we go. All right, so there's our stats, and that should be good. All right, and then for modifiers, so 15 would be 2, 14 would be 2, 13 would be 1, 8 is -1, unfortunately. Insight is 1, and influence is 0 for the modifiers. And so after that, let's move on to setting up our skills. So we have 6 skill points to put into things. And so let's get our psionics up. So we got 6. So let's put, I don't know, let's go all in on psionics. Let's put 3 points in there, which would bring it up to intermediate. Psionics intermediate, that is big. Shrink that a bit. There we go. Intermediate, and so that'll give us a +3 in psionics, and then right now we have an existing +2, so psionics overall is going to be 5, a modifier of 5. And so now we got 3 more skill points to spend, so let's spend it in, let's put it with at least one in laser weapons. We're gonna use those a lot. And then let's put 1 into our fortitude save. So we get what's our resolve? 2, so that would be an overall modifier of 3. And then let's put the last one in, I don't know, let's do, what would be a good one? Let's recall. Let's be smarty pants. We can control people's brains, and we know everything in the library. So that would be a total of intelligence 2 plus, so that'd be a total of +3. I'm not gonna fill all this out because Dex that'd be 0, so Dex would just be 1. A lot of these would just be 1. I'm not going to fill all this out because it would take too long, and I'm trying to make this video not super fucking long. But yeah, so a lot of these would just be ones and zeros, since you don't. But yeah, so intermediate, basic, 3 basic, so that's 3, and then intermediate is 3 because, as you can see over here, it costs 1 point to go from no training to basic, and then it costs 2 points to go from basic to intermediate. So going from no training to intermediate, it costs 3 total. Okay, so let's move on to species. I tried really hard to make species unique and interesting in this game. Not generic, fantasy races in space, essentially. So I'll just quickly run through them. Of course, we have humans. The most, like a lot of sci-fi universes, they're the most common out there. As you can see, you can pause if you want to see the details. I list lifespan, some stat increases, which humans have +1 to each stat to a maximum of 20, which is pretty good. Most humanoid races have a movement speed of 30. I don't think any of them have no, that's not true. Some of them have slower movement speed. And I think I mentioned this in the last video, but each species becomes more powerful as they level up. So as you can see, it's every 3 levels a species gets some sort of new species related boost of some kind. So for human at level 1, you gain +1 to all your saves. At level 7, you get an additional +2 to your resolve modifier, pretty good. Level 10, gain resistance to incendiary and cryo damage, and that's all to reflect like the default human's ability to adapt and resist harsh geography and locations. Like I forget the quote, but like some smart guy related humans to cockroaches once because we're just that hard to kill. And I thought that was a cool thing to like contextualize normal humans as, like, we're not the strongest or smartest, but you're gonna have a hard time killing us. We're just that resilient. But yeah. After that, you got a metamorph, which are 5e. In 5e, I think Eberron, you have the changeling, or whatever they're called. They can just change their form to look like however they want, when they want. There's a bit more detail to it in this game because they mostly have to stick to a humanoid form, but they can do some things to kind of bend those rules a little bit. Their stat increases is +2 to influence, +1 to insight, so they're good at convincing and lying and intimidating. And they're also relatively good at reading people, which makes sense. Like they can shapeshift a bunch, so they have a unique insight to how a human's face moves when it's feeling emotions. So they can shapeshift as 2 actions. They can't accurately take on the form of someone else without touching them with like skin contact. That is purposely meant to be a restriction on their abilities, because it would be kind of overpowered if like we gotta infiltrate this building and it's like, okay, I'll just transform to look exactly like one of the people who work here and have no issue getting in, and the transformation is so perfect nobody can tell. So I put a restriction on there to some extent. And that restriction gets lesser as you level up. When you reach level 10, it only takes you 10 minutes of skin against skin contact to perfectly copied appearance of another. Plus you can kind of steal one of their abilities in a way. It's not really stealing, you're mimicking it, but it allows you to spend 3 ability slots and also gain their modifier for 2 skills. This effect only lasts for 1 hour. That could be pretty useful, if you need like an extra engineer in your ship all of a sudden and you don't have anybody around. They'll just mimic your engineer and gain his skill. But yeah, at higher levels, they can also grow additional arms and a tail. And and they have a healing factor as well, like a Wolverine style healing factor. As a way to balance that, it only works while they're conscious. So if they're knocked to 0 hit points, it no longer works. That way they can't just endlessly get back up. But I've never play tested a level 7 character before, so who knows? It might be completely broken. I don't know. Who knows? Next are Capi, which are a warrior race. Think of like the Mandalorians from Star Wars. They have +2 strength and +1 to resolve. They can rage. In Mythic, you can't. There's no classes. There's no barbarian class, so you actually can't rage whenever you want. You have to take a drug to rage in Mythic. But if you play the Capi, they can rage whenever they want. They have a set number of rages. They can just fly into a rage and go buck wild. And it gets stronger over time. Again, I don't want to go into. I don't want to read out every single thing species can do in this game. I'll if you are really interested, you can pause it and read it yourself. But I'm gonna go. I went too deep into the metamorph. I need to speed this up. So I'm just gonna stop explaining and just go. So, and then you have synthetic, which are, as they might sound, they are a synthetic life form. When I created it, I was thinking more of like a Data type character from Star Trek. But unfortunately, Mythic, the few details I give about a setting related to Mythic, I try not to, but the few details I give related to the setting of Mythic is that synthetics are unshackled AI, and people really don't like unshackled AI. They find them that they will want to kill humans a lot, and are really smart and can hack into a lot of things. So most people don't like unshackled AI. So that is one of the drawbacks of playing as a synthetic, is that if any NPC or potentially a PC who is role-playing very well or role-playing that way finds out that they're an unshackled AI, they might try to shut you down. But other than that, their stat increases is intelligence +3, which is really good. But they have -2 to influence. So they have a really big increase in one way and a kind of big decrease in another. But they also, I'm making a Scion character in my other tab right now. So you might think to yourself, oh, I should play as a synthetic because they get +3s to intelligence. That's really strong. Synthetic is a synthetic creature. Unfortunately, they cannot harness psionics. You need a living organic brain to do so. And no, this is not the type of setting where you can extract a living brain from a human person and use it as your conduit for psionic stuff. I mean, if your DM, or in this game, ND, allows you to do that, go for it, but by default, you're not supposed to be able to do that. So, moving on, you have the Thoth. I'm well aware of the thought memes that some of my players have made with this. It is very funny, and I enjoy it, and they are the default Scion race of this game. Like, if you want to play a Scion, if you want to min-max and want to play a Scion, you should play a Thoth. They get bonuses from being both a Thoth and a Scion following that perk path. So that's pretty good. Their stat increases are intelligence +2, influence +1, so they're smart and are good at convincing people of things, but they have a -1 to strength and dexterity. So they're not the most physically inclined people ever. They got big brains. They don't got the big muscles. So that's why back when I was going through stat and skill allocation, I was talking about dumping strength. So if we pick Thoth, which is what I'm going to do because I'm making a min-max Scion, we're going to have -2 to our strength modifier because we're going to play. I'll just write it down now. Oh, make it a little bigger. I'm a thought. I like being a thought. So that let's just go through right now. So intelligence +2. So intelligence. So our modifier, instead of being 2, it's going to be a 4. Influence +1. So our 0 is going to go up to 1. Our strength is -1. So instead of -1, it's going to be -2. And our dexterity is -1. So that'll bring it down to 0, unfortunately, but whatever. So psionics would now increase to, so that's 4 + 3, so 7. So my psionics at the start of the game is 7, which is pretty good. Recall will now be 5. And I don't think anything else changes. Well, like athletics would be like -2 now, but that can be filled out later. That doesn't need to be filled out now because I'm just trying to get the like big obvious modifiers out of the way. Like, you know, high psionics makes sense. You're playing Scion and a Thoth. But yeah, if you play a Thoth, even if you're not playing a Scion, Thoth, get some psionic related abilities like telekinesis and some simple mind reading. If you ever use the what's it called, like detect thoughts, I think it is, in 5e in D&D, it works a lot like that. A little different, but a lot like that. So moving on, you have the Chthon, which are kind of another warrior race. Yeah, basically. They're definitely inspired by the Krogan from Mass Effect. They're these like big, burly freaks of nature, which are like really strong, really like developed for combat, but kind of lack in other areas. Unlike the Krogan from Mass Effect, the Chthon are kind of mentally not the most inclined. So, you know, if you want to make a high intelligence Chthon that focuses psionics, fucking go for it. But keep in mind, it's not optimal. No, it's not optimal. The Chthon get +2 to strength. They get +2 to resolve, +2 intelligence -2, so not great for more intelligence focused builds. Insight is -1, but they have like this thick shark like skin that gives them a +1 to AR, so you can start the game with pretty high AR. AR, if you I don't know if I mentioned it before, but it stands for armor rating. If you played Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, it is the same thing as armor class, just with a slightly different name. So, and again, pause if you want to read in more detail. Next, you have the Ricodome. They are a race of diamond people. You ever watch Ben 10 and see that the diamond guy he can turn into? That was inspiration for this. Yes, I am an adult. But the interesting thing with these guys is that they cannot wear armor. Their body is too bulky and too kind of diamond-like, too sharp and all over the place that they can't effectively wear armor. But they make up for that by having natural outer armor made from if not like literal diamond, it's made of like some sort of organic diamond-like substance. And at higher levels, they can shoot little diamond shards from their hands to attack people with, and they are very hardy. They have +3 to resolve, +2 to strength, -3 to dexterity. Makes sense. They're very bulky. -1 to insight, and they have -5 to accuracy to ranged weapons. So they are very melee focused. but instead of natural armor, or they have natural armor instead, and you calculate their natural armor through 8 plus strength mod plus resolve mod. So if you really focus those two things, you can start the game with like 14, 15 AR. Not the highest, but that's about on par with everything else. I might raise it in the future. Yeah, that's the Ricodome. Moving on to the Ganete. They are a race of very tall. Imagine like the default gray alien from like sci-fi with the big beady black eyes and the gray skin, but these guys are, instead of being short little guys, they are very, very tall, and they have 4 arms. They spend the minor amount of lore in this game is that the Ganete spend most of their time in space as spacers in low gravity. So over the generations, their bodies have like lengthened out. I forget what they're called, but there's people who hang out mostly on asteroids in the Expanse, and they were a big inspiration for this race, and that they're like tall and lanky now because of their exposure to lower gravity for so long. That being said, they aren't hindered in normal gravity, not hindered too much in normal gravity, but yeah, there are some things that affect them. Like they have light sensitivity, not unlike Drow from Dungeons and Dragons, because they spend most of their time in space on dark ships. They have additional arms. Having additional arms can be really strong in Mythic, because when you make an attack with every weapon you have available to you that can effectively attack someone. So if you have like a pistol in either hand, when you make an attack action, you attack with both those pistols. It's not an individual attack action per pistol. So if you have 3 actions in this game. So if you use 2 of your actions to attack, your first attack is you're attacking with both pistols, and then your second attack, you're attacking with both pistols again. So it can potentially do a lot of damage. There are drawbacks to dual wielding and using multiple weapons at a time. I won't go into that right now, but it's also important to note that Ganetes, despite having 4 arms, are not built well for wielding multiple weapons at once. They are dexterity focused. They're a dexterity focused race. They have low strength. They have dexterity +2, strength -2, resolve -1, intelligence +1. And yeah, pause to read more if you want. I'm going to move on. You have the Clarion, which are a race of, I think the simplest way to put it are like jellyfish people. But I feel like whenever I say that, people immediately jump to like the Hanar from Mass Effect, like literal jellyfish. But that's not what these are. Like, the minor amount of lore in this game is that every species in the known galaxy or whatever is humanoid. Partly to fit in with the restrictions of this game, in that all PC, all player, all races that players can play need to be relatively samey in base stats, or else things can get really fucky in game balance. But yeah, so the Clarion, they're jellyfish people, but they're still humanoid. They have 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, a torso. They still are mostly humanoid. But they have a lot of additional skin that allows them to not fly, but effectively glide. And their species developed on a gas giant, so they're used to hanging around or gliding on really dense gas rather than normal human air. So their fly speed is relatively restrained. yeah, their fly speed is 20, but I'm not going to go into it. But if you want to pause and read more of it, they gain fly speed in heavier atmospheres, and having different atmospheres is a game mechanic in this game. You can go to gas giants and have your players be in really high atmospheric pressure if you want to. It's there if you would like. But yeah, they're also resistant to high atmospheric pressure and hazardous environments that are related to gas giants, because that's where their species evolved. Oh, and they shoot lightning. Yeah, I forgot about that. This is the species that gives you +2 to insight, and medical is influenced by insight, the skill or stat or whatever. They get +1 to strength as well, so they're kind of like ideal medics, because they also get this electricity ability that can be used as an attack. It's like Shocking Grasp from D&D, but it can also be used as a defibrillator. And in Mythic, if a character dies and you use a defibrillator on them within a minute, they get back up at one hit point. Not the most realistic way of doing it. Like if you get shot in the face, like what is a defibrillator going to do? But whatever, it's game mechanics, right? So yeah, that's how that works, and it takes up ability slots. You can't do it forever, but they are like the ideal medic race. But feel free to play them in a different way if you want. So their species. I think I got everything I need to from that so far in my character sheet over here. So let's move on to origins. Origins, in normal D&D and Pathfinder, they have a huge list of backgrounds, and that's nice, but they're kind of restrictive, because they force you to be something defined already by D&D or Pathfinder. That's partially why I changed it, but I also changed it because I was making a huge, gigantic list of every background I could possibly think of, and I got to like, I don't know, like 60 backgrounds, and it's like, this is kind of dumb. Like, I should just give my players more freedom on what to do. So I kind of stole it from, I forget what it's called right now. Maybe I have it up somewhere. What the fuck? I want to keep this video short, so I'm just going to move on. I partially stole it from another system and kind of adapted it to this. But I'll just go through real quick. When creating an origin, it's crucial to and so ideally the origin creation is very interactive, with the entire group creating characters in the presence of the ND. While the method below can be adapted for a less group-focused approach, doing so loses many benefits of the origin system. Character creation consists of a few the origin system creates a few simple steps. There's a lot of spelling and word errors in here. Just ignore it. I'll fix it later. It starts the ND overview. You consider your character. You describe each character. You assign 3 origin points. You decide affiliations, and then you select character goals. So ND overview is just the ND. It's essentially what you go through in session 0. It's the ND going through and being like, this is the tone of what my campaign is going to be like. It's going to be either like dark, edgy, cyberpunk, taking down the man, super like ground level, dingy, in the back alleys, gross, gory game, or it's going to be like, oh, this is a Star Trek game. Nothing should get too heavy, and it's going to explore like ethical issues, but it's not going to be nothing too crazy, That's when the ND tells you that, and that'll inform you like kind of what character you should make. And so that's when you go into considering character. You kind of go into what the concept of your character you want them to be, and feel free to like bounce ideas off of the other players that you're supposed to do in a group, so you guys can have what's it called, cohesion in what your characters, what their personality will be and what role they fill. Because I don't know about everybody else, but you know, when someone else chooses a class, I kind of don't want to do that class as well. You know, with subclasses and all that in Dungeons and Dragons, and all the feats you can pick from in Pathfinder, you can make a very different fighter from another person's fighter. But generally speaking, there's so many classes you can pick from. If someone chooses a class, I just want to go with a different class. And so it's kind of the same thing with considering your character. Like, if someone wants to be the rough and tough bad boy who like nothing surprises him anymore, like maybe you want to play something else. Maybe you want to play like comedy relief cool guy. I don't know, whatever. You know, just making your own stuff. Then after that, you go into chapters. And so Origin Creation is divided into 3 chapters. Each chapter represents a significant period in your character's life before the game begins. And that can be any amount of time. It kind of matters like what kind of character you're playing as. If you're playing a younger character who's only like 25, maybe the chapters in your life are only like a couple years long, you know, 5-year chunks. But if you're playing like a long-lived species like a Thoth, who can live up to like 200 years or something like that, then maybe your chapters are like 10 to 50 years long, something like that. It doesn't matter. There's supposed to be points in your life that were significant enough to you that affected your outlook on life, or your character's life, I should say. And so for each chapter, you gain an origin point, which can be spent to increase a skill of your choice by +1. Origin points must be allocated to different skills. That you cannot assign multiple points to a single skill, so they have to be assigned to different things. By the end of Origin Creation, you'll have spent 3 origin points, granting you +1 to 3 separate skills that define your character's development over their life. Note that weapon skills and saving throws are also eligible for origin points to allocate. So you can create like an edgy, super cool, like bounty hunter type character who has all their origin points in weapons and saves training, because they're really good at combat. Let's see. The system's also supposed to help you create a backstory for your character. It's not supposed to like generate a full fleshed out backstory, but it's supposed to be like a good jumping off point. Like, you know, in a group, you kind of come up with a character concept, then you come up with your chapters, and then once that's all done, you can like break up from the rest of the group and kind of go into more depth on what your character's backstory was like and what you want it to be. And then chapters should be made up of 2 triumphs and a single failure. The 2 triumphs are moments in your character's history where they succeeded at something, making their friends, family, and themselves proud. For instance, a triumph can be like, I was the star athlete in my track at my college. On the other hand, you can have your character's failures. On the other hand, you have character's failures, and failures are the moments in your character's past that haunt them for the rest of their lives and motivate them to be better. For instance, a failure can be something like, I failed to disarm a trap and that killed my sister. This failure can be used to give your character a bonus to thievery, so that you will never have to suffer that same mistake again. So before we move on to affiliations, let's see. Let's do my character's origins real quick. So chapter 1, I want my character to be good at psionics. So chapter 1, I attended psionics college, and got super good at Psionics. I spelled it wrong. Whatever. Nice. Let's say skill. So skill would be psionics. And let's say I want to be good at laser weapons early game. You know, I got that -1 in dexterity, which is bringing my accuracy for laser weapons down to like a +0, even though I have basic training in it, which sucks. So why not be like chapter 2? My dad was a Navy officer that specialized. Ignore my spelling, it's going to be bad. Specialized in cutting edge tech. Lasers. He showed me the good stuff. Nice. So, laser weapon training. Now let's say chapter 3. I don't know. Let's go through my Let's go through my skills. What do I got? Let's see. I got 5 in recall. Let's get one of my saves up, I guess. Let's see. Let's get like R&D up. Why not? I don't know. What was it? A point in my life where I could have relearned some R&D training. I served. Whoops. Aboard a military ship, because I just said in my previous chapter my dad was in the military. I just served aboard a military ship. That is required by my state. Ignore my spelling. And learned the ropes of basic ship maintenance. And then R&D. R&D. So let's see. So I got those 3 done. So now I can give myself a +1 in psionics, laser weapons, and R&D. So go back to this character sheet. So it was a psionics. It would be now 8 + 8 at the start of the game. Pretty good. What was it? Laser weapons. I can. I don't know. I'll just do +1. I don't know. Failure on my character sheet, I guess. I don't know. It would be +1, and then +1 from basics, and then it'd be -1 from dexterity. Or no, just be +2 then. Oh, nice. So that'll just be overall +2 to my accuracy rolls for laser weapons or energy weapons, whatever. And then R&D. R&D is a solid 1. Whoops. Solid 1. Epic. And so those are my origins, and then let's go to affiliations. So the galaxy is a big place. The likelihood of your characters meeting before the events of the campaign are small. Good thing this is a game with characters creating a story rather than a system trying to perfectly replicate real life statistics. Me subtly trying to combat the realism argument. Not so subtle. So in origin creation, choosing to have your character know another player's character, having an affiliation with them, will grant you further origin points. You can know up to 2 other PCs in the group, allotting you 2 additional origin points. The length of time you knew that other PC can be no fewer than a few months, and you two would have worked or lived close enough to another on a daily basis so that you would immediately recognize one another if you were to run into one another in the campaign, which of course you're going to because you're all PCs. Affiliations do not need to be friendly ones, but they cannot be hostile ones. Two PCs can have a past grievance with one another, but in the end, they must still be willing to work together to accomplish the goals of the current campaign. Well, and their own goals, but I guess that is a campaign. It is best to include another PC in one of your 3 chapters or include them in one additional chapter of your PC's life. The amount of origin points you gain remains the same no matter what you choose. Origin points that come from affiliations must be spent on skills the player characters has an affiliation with their 2 highest skills. So if I have an affiliation with, I'll write it down. Let's say I have an affiliation with Jerry. Let's say his PC name is Seinfeld. Never watched that show, but memes have affected me. I spelled it wrong too, don't worry about it. Reason, let's say I served aboard the same space ship as him. Whoops. But yeah, let's say Jerry's also a Thoth, and maybe during your required military service, he was aboard the same ship. And let's say his 2 highest skills are awareness and convince. He's got a +5 in awareness. Nothing gets by that guy. And it's I don't have any pluses to my awareness right now. I kind of would like one. So I'm going to steal his skill, and I get a +1 in awareness. So I can come over to this sheet, and in awareness I'll have a solid 1. Except what is my? I guess I would bring it up to 2 because it's insight plus that +1 from the origin point. So that'd be a 2 total. And so that's my first affiliation. Let's go with my second affiliation. It's going to be fucking Jeremy Elbertson. And his character is the legend himself, Jex the Cop. Let's say he's not playing a Thoth. So how would my character ever encountered him? Let's say on one mission, he and I had to work together on a joint task force or whatever to find a criminal. Okay, and then what would Jex be good at? Let's say Jex would be good at he's a cop, so he'd be good at discernment. He can read people real well, or he's good at investigating because he finds all the drugs on the criminals. He finds them all. So discernment would be pretty useful as this character. Discernment, you can never go wrong with it. Or investigation, really. That'd be plus intelligence as well. So let's go with the investigation. Working with Jex the Cop for a while, you really learned how to spot every little detail around you. So that'll be a +1 to investigation. And then that's plus intelligence. So what's intelligence? 4, and then that's +1 from origin point. So that's going to be a total 5. You got +5 investigation just from base stats and affiliation. That's pretty good. And so those are affiliations. And so after that, we move on to player goals. So this might be a little weird to some players. I don't think this has ever appeared in D&D or Pathfinder, but in in session 0, when you're making your character, you should come up with your ND and with the rest of the group. It doesn't have to be fully fleshed out, but you need to come up with some general stuff about your character, about like what you want your players' like story or goal to be. You know, I have found that when I am the player or the DM and dealing with players, that they pay a lot more attention when something they made up is being directly brought into the current story, which makes a lot of sense. Like, they made their own backstory, they want their own backstory explored, which makes complete sense. So in the player goal system, it's meant so that the DM can create their own story, yes, but they also have they clearly have like a list of what players want to happen with their character. So that way, as the DM, or in this game, the narrative director, you can take what your players want their story to be and integrate that into what you want the overarching story to be. And by doing that, you're going to make a much more engaging campaign of Mythic. I mean, this works for D&D as well, but this would work well for Mythic. So that way, the DM or the ND knows that the story, at least to one character, is going to be interesting at all times. But characters are also going to be much more engaged because their backstory is coming up. Like, I don't know about anybody else, but I think it's a lot of fun when my backstory comes up in the game. So how do you go about this? Well, first you create a long-term goal. Players should start with a long-term goal. What do you want your character to achieve? What should be, what do you want your character to achieve by the end of the campaign? That's a question you should ask yourself. Long-term goals should be quantifiable, yet somewhat vague, as a lot can change from the beginning to the end of the campaign. A quantifiable long-term goal must have a clear endpoint. Becoming stronger is not quantifiable, since there is no clear endpoint. Kill my arch nemesis is a quantifiable goal, because once the arch nemesis is dead, the goal is accomplished. Even in a setting where your long-term goal might be restricted by the nature of the setting, you should still set a quantifiable long-term goal. I don't think I need to say anything more than that. I think my writing stands for itself. Earn money, get strong is not a good goal. Kill my arch nemesis and build a kingdom that survives for a year. That's quantifiable. That has a clear endpoint. So yeah, that's long-term goals. And then after that, you go to midterm goals, which are you taking your long-term goal. I'm going to shorten this description a lot. It's taking your long-term goal and coming up with 3 steps to get there. So let's say our long-term goal, my character is a scion, maybe, and my character is a scion that has history with their dad. Let's say their dad went missing. Let's go full Fallout 3 on this one. Their dad went missing and they're searching for their dad. And so their midterm goal is to find clues. And you could leave it there, to be honest, with your midterm goal, because it's a mystery. So it's more on the ND to come up with stuff for you to go out and find. But you can also come up with stuff yourself. Like, if you want to come up with like custom clues you want to leave for yourself to find your dad, you can. Like, I want to run into one of my dad's old friends who saw him, and he can point me in his direction. Or I come to some random planet and I find like his journal, and it kind of points me in the right direction as well. It's something to kind of lead you to the long-term goal. And then let's say, and generally you should have 3 midterm goals, but you can have as many or as few as you want. And then short-term goals are kind of a continuation where you take each of your midterm goals, which should be like two or three at the minimum, and break them down further into smaller steps. Like, let's say one of your midterm goals is to find your dad's friend so he can point you in the right direction of your dad. So how do I get to that friend? Like, what planet is he on? Where does he live? What job does he do? How am I going to find this guy? You know, those questions alone can become short-term goals, like instantly, just easy. Like, oh, I need to find my dad's friend. Okay, I need to figure out what planet he's on first. That's a short-term goal. That, you know, short-term goals are meant to be something that you can solve in like a session or two. You know, long-term goals are campaign long. Midterm goals can be accomplished in several sessions. Matters how long your narrative arcs are. And then your short-term goals are something you can solve in like a session or two. I'm starting to get tired and need to wrap this up. Yeah, so let's say long-term goal, find dad. Midterm goal, find dad friend. Find dad, dad, oh, can I spell journal? I can, thank God. Find dad journal. Then the last one could be I don't know, I'll just leave it there for now. 2 or 3, that's good. And then some short-term goals. Let's just do the one midterm goal to find dad's friend. What planet he on? Where he live? How I get to him. And some of these like short-term goals can be like pretty trivial. Like, how do I get to him? Like, get on a ship and go to his planet, you know? But that can be turned into a quest into itself, or unto itself, in that, like, if you don't have a ship already and you can't pay someone to take you somewhere, then you're going to have to buy a ship or steal a ship, you know? And that can be done. That could be resolved in a few sessions. That wouldn't take that long. So yeah, there's the goals for the character, and that's all of this. Your chapters, your affiliations, your goals, they should be more than enough of a basis to get your mind going on what your backstory, more details about your backstory should be. You know, I attended a Silence college. Okay, maybe I lived, and my dad's in the military, and I served in the military at some point. Maybe I lived in like a strict military household that, you know, I was always expected to go to college, and so I did. And now that I've done all that, I've graduated, I have a lot of like military experience. My dad went missing, and now I need to go find him. Like, I need to put all my experience that I've learned over the years to use and find him. And yeah, and that should be a good basis to create your character's more in-depth backstory, and then share it with your ND so he knows what's going on. After that is languages. It's not fleshed out very much right now. Coming soon, I guess. And then so level 1. Yes, there is still more to go over. Oh, there's a lot more to go over. Fuck. So level 1, every character begins with some like default gear. They can start with a pistol or revolver. They can choose with a rifle or a shotgun. They can choose between light armor or medium armor. This won't be optimal for every character build. You know, if you're playing, for my character, I'm playing a Scion with, you know, high dex and a focus on energy weapons, but I can only pick from a ballistic pistol, you know, two pistols that are ballistic focused. I did that on purpose to an extent because level 1 is supposed to be a tutorial level to some degree. You know, so I hand everybody some basic gear to get used to the game mechanics and like not have to worry about many modifiers or anything like that. So yes, you're probably going to start the game with unoptimal gear, but I mean, you do one quest, you go to town, you sell your gear, and you buy the gear you want. It's a step you have to go through, I guess. It's not that big of a deal. But that's what the starting gear you get. Stat and skill rolls. I mean, if you played D&D or Pathfinder, you already know what this is. When you do something and your ND calls for you to make a skill roll. I mean, in Mythic, you shouldn't do any stat rolls. You shouldn't do any at all. You should do exclusively skill rolls. You can do stat rolls sometimes if you want. I mean, all you have to do is add the basic modifier to the D20 roll. But there's really no reason. The skills are in the game for a reason. Have players roll skills. But yeah, so you're going to be mostly when you do something, your DM will have you do a skill check, where you roll a 1d20 and you add your skill training modifier, which in this sheet, these are all your skills, and these numbers that we've been modifying through creating our character, these are your skill training modifiers, your STMs. And so when you roll a d20, you then come over to this page and reference what your skill modifier, your STM is, and add that number to your 1d20 roll. There are difficulty ratings. They go from the simplest, basic, which is 10, to mythic level, which is a difficulty level of 40. If you've played any Dungeons & Dragons, you would know that some classes can get to 40 really easily. So it sounds really high, but it's not as high as you think. Let's see. So a lot of this is stuff people already know. 5e and Pathfinder would already know. Skill actions. That's what I just explained. Contested checks. In some cases, a contested check will be called for representing a challenge between two parties. In a contested check, both participants make a skill check as they normally would. However, whoever has the highest results win. You can choose to fail. You can choose to fail any roll you want. I shouldn't say no consequences. I mean, so if you choose to fail a roll, there could definitely be consequences. But you can choose to fail whatever you want. So if an ally is doing something to you that you could resist, or by default is described as someone should resist, you can choose to fail it if you want. So like if an ally grapple hooks you and you get pulled to them, you can just choose to fail it and just let it happen. Checks without rules. I'll just abbreviate. You can choose to take 20, which in game has your character taking 20 minutes to attempt something over and over and over again in continuously for that full 20 minutes until you pass. That way you can just skip the roll. Like, who cares? You just skip the roll and move on, because it can get really annoying when you're making a lockpick check and you fail and you keep failing and you're just rolling over and over again because there's no consequence to failing technically, or at least not in normal Dungeons and Dragons, if I recall correctly. There is some consequences in this game, but the idea still applies. Like what if you fail but not fail enough that there are consequences over and over and over again? It just drags on, gets boring. Just take 20 and just get out of the way. Though you should keep in mind that when you take 20, that means you're failing over and over again to finally achieve that success. So if you're taking 20 to disarm a trap, you're going to set off that trap, because you're going to fail over and over again during those 20 minutes until the trap is disarmed. My voice is getting dry. So it's not good to use on everything, like disarming traps or doing anything that's time sensitive. This would be bad to use on. But if you're just exploring an area and there's nothing going on, who cares? Just take 20 and automatically succeed. Okay. Edge and snag. So Edge and Snag in Mythic replaces the advantage system in Dungeons and Dragons. In Dungeons and Dragons, when you have advantage, you get to add an additional d20 to whatever roll you're making and take the highest roll. It has to be a d20 roll. And when you have disadvantage, you add a d20 and roll 2d20 and take the lowest roll. With Edge and Snag, when you have a tier of Edge, you add a d6 to your roll. You can have multiple tiers of Edge and Snag. So if you have 2 tiers of Edge, you can add 2d6 to your roll and add whatever you rolled with those d6s to your overall roll. And the same goes for Snag. You can have a tier of Snag, which is just 1d6, and subtract that from whatever you rolled for your 1d20. Or you can have multiple tiers of Snag. So if you have 2 tiers of Snag, you subtract, you roll 2d6s and subtract, you subtract whatever you rolled for the 2d6s from your 1d20 roll. Could be broken, could be overpowered. Not quite sure yet. Edge and Snag hasn't come up that much in my playtests. I mean, players have definitely gotten Edge and Snag, but them getting multiple tiers of Edge and Snag hasn't really come up yet. But I think it's fun because then players will really try to optimize all their builds and stuff to gift each other as much Edge and Snag as possible to endlessly get 3 tiers of Edge and add 3d6 to your roll, which could be like the maximum roll for 3d6 would be like 8 plus 18 or something crazy like that. I think it's fun, so I designed it that way. Could be broken, I'm not sure yet, but that's how it is right now. Luck. So luck is kind of like DM inspiration from D&D, where when players do good role play or do something that the DM otherwise really likes, or in Mythic, if you complete a quest that is one of your player goals, like a short-term, mid-term, long-term goal, you get points of luck. Luck is represented as luck points and be gained in 3 ways: award to the player by the ND for quality role-playing, award to the players when completing a goal, 1 luck point for completing a short-term, 2 luck points for completing a mid-term, and 3 luck points for completing a long-term goal. And it's rewarded just to the player that the goal's meant for. So it's not rewarded to every player. Maybe I should write that down, but whatever. Acting in a way that inspired by your failure chapter. Oh, right. So if you act in a way that is inspired by your failure chapter from your origin, you can also get a luck point from the DM. So let's say your mom wandered into a cave, and like a dark, scary cave, and she died. Like you're just standing at the mouth of the cave, and you could have gone and saved her, but you didn't because you're too scared. And so when you act in accordance to that later on in the story, or later on in the campaign, and your DM is aware of that and remind them if they don't remember, then you get awarded a luck point because you are acting upon your player's fault, which is good. That's good character stuff. But as for what can be done with luck points, you can spend luck points to automatically make a roll of any kind succeed, a single roll. You do not need to announce before you roll that you're spending a luck point. You can wait to see the results of your roll before spending the point. The automatic success is considered a critical success, as if rolling a natural 20 on your die. So if used for your attack, the attack becomes a critical. You may also spend a luck point in combat to take your turn whenever you want during a round of combat. For example, once you use a luck point in this way, you cannot use it again until a new round of combat has begun. Using luck points in this way does not give you an additional turn in a round, but allows you to make your turn out of order. When getting to where your turn should be in the turn order, or in the initiative order, you skip it since you've already taken your turn. You can have a maximum of 3 luck points at any one time, and you cannot use luck points in the same round you gained the luck point. so you can't use it as soon as you get it. So luck, I'm a cool guy. I got 3. Other bonuses works just like 5e. You get circumstances bonuses, so like there are effects in the game that can grant you additional AR for a limited amount of time. Being above an enemy can give you a +2 to your attack, to accuracy roll. Item bonuses, stat bonuses, penalties, like running through mud can give you a tier of snag. Let's see, passive awareness. Passive awareness is your ability to subconsciously detect your surroundings. Obvious things like someone charging at you, or the sound of a gunshot, or a snap of a twig. It's your basic ability to perceive your area around you without, your unconscious ability to perceive your area around you. You calculate it by 8 plus awareness STM. So what's my awareness STM? It is 2. So my passive awareness would be 8 plus 2, so that's a total of 10. Super aware. Designations. You can pause and look through these in more detail if you want, but essentially designations are recommended builds for players to quickly and easily use to make basic characters. You do not have to use any of these designations, but for new players just learning the system, using designations as roadmaps can help them understand the game. So you can pause and look through these if you want to. I'm not going to explain them because it would be a lot to explain, but it's generally taking every perk, item, ability, perk path in the game and recommending them based on the kind of build you want to make. So if you want to play like a Cyber Ronin, they're going to be focused on melee, they're going to be focused on speed, so you're going to take perks and items that really focus on that. Marksman is all about crits and long range. Mythic is about healing people. Demolitionist is making people blow up, using the grenade launcher a lot. Scion, that's mine. Using their mental abilities to mind control people, force push people, create like a sword of psionic power or whatever. Ranger, they're all about like surviving terrain. Technician is being good at engineering. It's starting to rain outside. Sick. Leveling up. I'm gonna skip that for now because it's not really related to character creation. Perks come at level 2, so I'm not really sure if I should cover that either. Perks, even number level ups, you get perks, and you can either pick 2 on your even number level up, or you can pick 1 perk path. It's starting to rain really hard, actually. Wow. Okay. But yeah, so you pick whatever you feel like is best for your build. Again, if you want to look at these in more detail, feel free to pause and look through them. There's a lot in the game right now. I think I got rid of the redundant ones, but I could be wrong. But yeah, there should be plenty of perks here to make a pretty unique build of yours. Yeah, here's perk paths. Yeah, and then starting credits. There are 10. Yeah, so I don't know if I didn't mention this in the last video, but Mythic only has 10 levels. Like D&D only has 20. Mythic only has 10. I did that because I think campaigns are better when they're shorter, and I really don't think the 2+ year-long campaigns are the best things in the world. Personally, I want more variety in my character builds than that, and I don't know, maybe I'm zoomer pilled or something, but I want like important story beats to come up more often, which would be forced to happen if you're playing only 10 levels, because there's just not as much game to a degree. But yeah, starting credits, you lot money to players. Level 1 is just starting gear and 5d10 times 10 credits. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but the game uses credits. Like every fucking sci-fi in existence, money is just called credits, cause whatever. Yeah, that is character creation. That took a lot longer than I thought it would, and I am feeling it. After that, it just is more. That's more explanation. Non-combat is more like exploration stuff. If people are interested, I can do more. But that's where things are at with Mythic right now. It is pretty developed, as you can see. There's a lot to the game right now. Character creation is by itself 20 pages. I mean, it's mostly because of perks and designations, but still, it's very long. There's a lot to it. It's pretty refined at this point. There's pursuits. Well, I shouldn't say it's pretty refined. It still needs a lot of testing, but I don't have a lot of people to test the game with, so I might release the game not super tested, but that's just going to have to be how it is. What is this? Oh, these are perk path actions. Combat, horde combat. Here's some weapons. There's a lot of weapons in the game. Sound blunderbuss, I forgot about that. But yeah, there's a lot to the game already. If people are interested, I can make more videos about it. I enjoy talking about my game. Oh, I made a bunch more. They're not here. Fuck. I love talking about the game I'm making, and I would love to talk anybody's ear off about it, but I just no one in my personal life is not interested at the moment. So, yeah, I can make more videos in the future. Do the usual YouTuber shit, like, comment, subscribe, and shit. I don't care. Yeah.